Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Coburn, and today's episode, we're talking about the Dallas Cowboys 2017 season review analytics. And again, this is another sort of set of videos where we're basically going to focus in on all of the team statistical data related to the Dallas Cowboys, how they performed on offense, defense, special teams, and other sort of data points as well. So we're basically looking at a lot of different analytics, different sort of data points to clue in on where the Cowboys didn't really perform that well, the areas that they can improve, and then lastly get into free agency in terms of key targets and stuff like that. In terms of like what positions, what types of players should they target, should they get in order to get better and improve as a football team. And if you're new to the channel, all terms and definitions will be in the description. So if you are new to the channel, new to analytics, new to any of the data that I'm talking about in this video, you can just go to the description where all the information will be there. So first off, let's start with the data review of the Cowboys. So this is the basic season statistics for the Cowboys, basically giving you an idea of where they were above average, below average in terms of various different data points. The biggest thing that sticks out the most based on the data for the Dallas Cowboys is their defense was really, really bad in terms of preventing first downs. They scored a 15.63 out of 100 in terms of their total D-score, which the total D-score deals with the ability to prevent first downs. And that is probably the biggest thing that kind of held the Cowboys team back to a certain extent, because the offense is fine. The offense was above average in terms of its ability to create first downs, but the defense was below average. On top of that, when you look at the overall offensive statistics as well, the offense had a above average turnover percentage, which is basically the ability to prevent turnovers, so that they weren't turning over the football at a very high rate. They were actually pretty above average. Sack percentage was a little worrisome, kind of average, and for an offensive line that many people consider to be the best offensive line in the NFL, or at least a top 5 offensive line, they did not perform that way when it comes to the amount of sacks that they allowed this year. And there definitely could be some other reasons for this. I mean, it could be Dak Prescott, it could be on tight, there are multiple reasons why, but this is definitely an area that needs to improve. Offensive score percentage, they had a 73.86 out of 100. Which is above average as well. So again, offensively speaking, the Cowboys were fine. Now, they do need improvement. I mean, scoring 73.54 and 73.86 in terms of offensive score percentage, you want to be in the 90 percentile. You don't want to be in the 70s. But their offense was at least above average, adequate, whatever term you want to use. The offense was able to do what it needed to do to put points on the board and not have a lot of issues. Defensively, though, this is where stuff kind of happened. The defensive offensive score percentage was below average. The turnover ratio, which is basically the ability to create turnovers, was really like 19.53 out of 100, which is really low. Sack percentage was only 50.24 out of 100, so they had an average ability to create sacks in terms of the sack percentage. And interception percentage was 10.71 out of 100. So their ability to create turnovers on defense was just meh. Their overall ability to prevent points on defense was kind of average, and their ability to create sacks on defense was also average for the entirety of the season. And again, there's other reasons why this could be, guys getting suspended, all the different kinds of stuff. But ultimately, the defense of the Cowboys was the weak link when you look at the overall statistical data. And then, of course, when you get to special teams-wise, the punt return yardage was kind of average. Kick return yardage was above average. Defensive punt return yardage and defensive kick return yardage were both above average. So their ability to prevent kick returns and punt returns was a lot better than their ability to create yardage through punt returns and kick returns. Field goal percentage was also very, very low, 22.20 out of 100. So that's definitely an issue that needs to be addressed. Extra point percentage was 5.67 out of 100. Punting average was 59.69. And the overall grade for the team, like when you take all the data, combine it into one number, and grade it against every team, they had a 71.65 out of 100. So this was an above average football team statistically speaking, when you look at all the statistics. But there's definitely a lot of areas of concern that they need to think about improving on, in the future when it comes to them. Now, where this team stacks up, historically speaking, so now we're going to look at some data that basically looks at all the Dallas Cowboys teams from 2017 to 1998 to give you some perspective in terms of how good this team was compared to the previous team. In actuality, the only difference between the 2017 Cowboys and the 2016 Cowboys and the 2016 Cowboys did very well. The only difference was the offense. The 2016 Cowboys had an extremely high offensive total O score, which is basically the ability to create first downs. They had a very high turnover percentage, so they didn't turn the football over a lot. They had a very high offensive score percentage, and the defense was actually worse last year than it was this year. So in many ways, the defense got better this year, but the offense regressed. Is the basic sort of way to kind of say that. On top of that, field goal percentage also dropped. Extra point percentage also dropped. So the place kicker situation has gone downhill, especially from like 2014. As you can see from 2012 to like 2014, or actually 2011 to like 2014, their field goal percentage was actually fairly stable. And then it just started to take a steep drop, and then this was kind of the worst year for field goal percentage that the Cowboys have had since 2010. So that has to improve. There's no other way around it. But this is basically the Cowboys. Again, this is all the Cowboys teams from 1998 based on the statistics that I mentioned before. In terms of where the Cowboys rank compared to every Cowboys team, in terms of the overall score, they actually were one of the better teams, or at least were in the top 10 out of every Cowboy team since since 1998, excuse me. So this Cowboys team wasn't bad, in terms of their overall data. It's just that the offense regressed. The defense got a little bit better, but wasn't amazing. And in many ways, that's just a concern to think about in the future. Now, in terms of where they need to improve for the future. So now we're getting into all that data that I just talked about, but what that data says in terms of the averages for different sort of teams. So these are the average scores for teams that are 12 to 16 wins, 9 to 11 wins, 8 wins or more, and 7 wins or less. As you can clearly see, the better you perform in many of these statistics, the more likely you are to win more football games consistently. So this gives you a good gauge of, okay, where you need to improve to be more consistent in terms of winning football games for the most part. And I think the big thing that sticks out here is, one, the Dallas Cowboys need to get better on defense. They did get better this year, but they need to get into the 64, 66 in terms of the ability to prevent, in terms of preventing first downs. They need to improve that area. They also need to improve their defensive offensive score percentage, which was 53.54 last year. It needs to get into the 60s, 70s would be ideal. Turnover percentage. This is another big thing. They have to be able to do stuff to create turnovers. Like they just have to. So this is another issue that this defense had, is they were not able to really create turnovers that well. Sack percentage, I think, could use a boost as well. So they need to get a little bit better in terms of creating sacks consistently, because don't get me wrong, there definitely was a point this season where the Cowboys were very good at creating sacks, but that didn't maintain for the entire season, which is what you want. You want that to maintain. You don't want it to be just kind of inconsistent. And that's definitely kind of what the data kind of shows here, is that they were very inconsistent. Interception ratio also needs to improve, especially very, very low interception percentage. And special teams wise, really not a lot to really write home about or be concerned with, to be honest. Defensive, same difference, but field goal percentage, extra point percentage, big things to think about improving, because 22.20 out of 100 is not where you want to be when it comes to your field goal percentage. Field goal percentage is by far one of the most important special teams metrics out there. If you are, again, it makes the most practical sense, because you have to be able to hit those field goals to win football games. You have to hit those field goals to do a lot of different things. So ultimately, those are kind of the areas where they need to improve for the future. Now we're going to get into some other sort of data points. So this is basically other data, and you can pause the video right now and kind of look at all this stuff. But this is the Cowboys 2017 team compared to every team since 1998 in terms of other sort of data points. So focus in on completion percentage and first down conversion rate with the run and pass. A big difference between the 2016 Cowboys and the 2017 Cowboys, or at least why the offense kind of regressed a bit, was because the completion percentage dropped in various different downs. First down, for example, the completion percentage dropped a bit. Second down was probably the biggest regression. Third down even also regressed pretty hard in terms of completion percentage. So those three main downs, big drops in terms of completion percentage. The running game. Now keep in mind, Ezekiel Elliott missed a lot of football games this year due to suspension, but it did have an effect, because when you look at the first down conversion rate with the run on first down, they were below average in terms of the ability to create first downs on first down. So that needs to definitely improve if they want to get back to what they were doing on the ground in 2016. And then when it comes to the pass, as you can clearly see, 2016, very good first down conversion rate on first down, very good on second down, and very good on third down. But when you look at 2017, below average in terms of first down, below average in terms of third down, slightly, more like average-ish, close to average. And then second down was also kind of average. So again, biggest things that happened on offense was the completion percentage dropped in many areas, and the ability to convert in first down situations, second down situations, and third down situations also dropped significantly. So those would be kind of the big sort of like what caused this regression to happen on offense. In many ways, it's those key areas. It's those areas, and I think those are the big areas where they need to think about improving and going from there. So ultimately, looking towards the future, what did the Cowboys need to look for in free agency? What do they need to look for in the draft? Well, first off, defense. I understand the Cowboys have invested a lot of stuff into defense. They definitely had. Last year's draft, they drafted Taco Charlton. They drafted a bunch of DBs that I was actually kind of, a pretty decent fan of, a lot of the defensive backs that you drafted. But ultimately, you have to get better on defense. You have to get better defensive tackles. You have to get more pass rushers. You need to get more, and more specifically, you need to get linebackers, cornerbacks, and safeties that could create turnovers. Because the biggest thing that's lacking right now is the ability to create turnovers. So getting a guy who, I'm not saying, again, is there Earl Thomas in this class? Probably not. But getting a type of defensive player that can create turnovers, that can get interceptions, that can create fumbles, anything at all, getting a guy like that, I think will really help this Cowboys team out. And especially when it comes to free agency, getting a guy that can create turnovers and create those other sort of impact plays, I think will help this defense out tremendously and kind of help them out a lot if they can find a guy like that. Offensively speaking, I hate to say offensive line, but again, the sack percentage was average. That's not what you want to be. You want to be above average in terms of your ability to prevent sacks. And maybe things will improve next year when they have a little bit more continuity and a little less issues and stuff like that. But ultimately, offensive line, maybe depth could be another sort of thing. Maybe moving La'el Collins back inside and then getting another guy to play right tackle. Do something at the very least, because this offense, in terms of the ability to prevent sacks, there's no other way around it. Like, they were just not where they needed to be in terms of that particular area. They could also stand to add some offensive weapons, whether it's wide receivers or any guy like that, really, to kind of help that area. But ultimately, that's what I would definitely do. The big focus for free agency and the draft needs to be defense. And I understand it was defense last year, and you're kind of tired of building, but you might be tired of building on defense. But ultimately, those are the big areas you need to be focusing in on. Those are the areas that you've been lacking, especially. And I think, and more specifically, getting guys that can create turnovers. And if you get those things, I think if you get players that can create turnovers, you get more defensive players, and you do a little bit of focus on offensive line, maybe get a right tackle here and there and move La'el Collins back inside. I think if you do those types of things, I think you'll prosper. So focus in on those types of things in free agency, and I think the Cowboys will be back and better than ever in 2018. And of course, my name is James Coburn. You can find my other work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Geometrics. And if you like this content and you want more content like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Share this video as well with anybody that you know. Hit that notification button so that you're always reminded when another video of mine drops. And I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.